Hi guys. So I wanted to. I have like a fun. Hey guys, what's up? Happy 2018. I know we're in like the second week of 2018. So I kind of wanted to make this video, and the topic is called self-love. So what we're gonna do in this video, we're gonna go over two things. Okay, we're gonna talk about what is self-love. And then the second part is how to practice self-love. But before I get into that, I want to get a little bit personal with you guys and kind of share a little bit of my journey. And I want to let you guys know, prior to 2016, life was a hot mess. Like, I mean, I was bumming around, it's post-college years. I was just kind of like all over the place. I was just in toxic environments. Everything was going haywire. Like, I just couldn't understand it. And if you're anything like me and you have like deep emotions towards everything, when people give you an inch, you tend to give them a foot, and you're always kind of putting yourself on a back burner to be there for everybody else. That was the old me. And what happened within like maybe the past 5 years, I kind of became a different person. I was no longer this like confident, spunky kid that was in high school that was so carefree. I became very obsessed with like everybody else and what they were doing, and you know, it became really ugly inside because there was a void in me and I couldn't understand it, and I didn't understand what the void was until I realized, like, just recently, which is like a year and a half ago, like, yo, you need to take care of yourself first. You know, you need to put yourself on the top of the list of all your priorities, and then everybody else can come next. Self-care and self-love means that you're able to mentally become stable with yourself. You're able to give yourself the time that you give everybody else, that you're no longer feeling exhausted, you're no longer feeling helpless, you're no longer feeling like dependent or needy on other people. I apologize if you hear my dad in the background. It's kind of like hollow walls, so and every time he picks up the phone, it's always like he's talking overseas. I don't know why. But back to what I was saying. Self-care and self-love starts with you. And a lot of times it happens when you go through a lot of hardship, a lot of heartache, a lot of just when you go through life and you just start questioning, like, what's happening right now? Like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I so exhausted? What's going on? So what I want you guys to understand, that when it comes to self-love, it's all about you. Now, I know that sounds really selfish, but here's the irony. The more you practice self-love, the more selfless you become. So self-love would include something like eating more healthy because you know your body requires it, not for self-image. You're exercising more, same thing, because you need to let that blood flowing. Or, you know, not depending on anybody else and not needing anyone else, and being able to be alone without feeling lonely. And there's a huge difference being alone and being lonely. It's two different things. So you can be in a room filled with people and still feel lonely. And then you can be alone and feel lonely, but you can also be alone and actually find contentment in your solitude, in your own company. And that's what self-love teaches you. So let's get to the second part. But before I get into that, when you don't have self-love, what happens is you're not feeling yourself, you're feeling insecure. And what happens is there's this thing called your ego. Yeah, you know that guy? So your ego tends to boost you up and make you believe that you love yourself, but really you're just kind of feeding like the superficial layer rather than the soul, and the soul's becoming empty. And that's when you realize, like, I mean, it's a temporary high and it's a temporary good feeling, but then eventually it comes crashing down, and then you're just left with like, what is this exhausting, draining feeling? Like, you don't understand it anymore. So you have to understand and differentiate between the two. So the way to practice self-love. What I started doing was, it began with solitude. It began with isolating everyone, including my own family, friends, everything. I was just always to myself for a while. And it was just like the really first beginning ugly phase, you know, like, and then when you start becoming like that, you start feeling alone, right? You start feeling lonely, but you don't want to go back to like this toxic environment, so you start like reevaluating who needs to be in your life and who doesn't. But it doesn't jump from A to Z real quick. You have to kind of do these in steps, okay? So I didn't want to be with anyone, and I just kind of wanted to be by myself. So what I started doing was I started doing things on my own. And if I wanted to go to the movies, oh, this was kind of hard for me. So I took myself to the movies by myself. I took myself to the movies by myself. I obviously went to the movies by myself, and the first time it was so hard. Oh my god, I had to force myself because I was like, okay, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. And when I went to the movies, I felt so lonely. I was like, because I'm used to either going with friends or anybody else, and I was just like, okay, this feels extremely lonely. And then the second time I went, it was still lonely, but not as excruciating lonely, you know? And then the third time I went by myself, I asked all my friends, I was like, okay, you guys want to go to the movies? And everyone was busy, like they had work, they had this. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go. And guess what? I had a blast. Oh my god, it was so much fun. I felt like I was in the theater by myself, just watching it, eating popcorn, you know? And I started enjoying it. And then what happens is, once you enjoy that kind of company, it's so freeing. Oh my god, it's like you don't need anybody to do anything anymore, you know? And that's what that situation sort of taught me. So by practicing self-love, let's go back to it, you have to start doing things on your own. You have to start being able to enjoy your own company. You have to go to these things like the movies, or like, I don't know, go on dinner dates by yourself, you know, things like that. You gotta do it for yourself. And at first it seems so pathetic and you're so annoyed and it's just like excruciating lonely, but then eventually you get so accustomed to it that it feels so freeing. And what happens is that once you start practicing things like that, whenever people do come around, like I said, you become more grateful that they're around, and it's not this like expectation needy feeling. It's more so like, oh wow, you're here, you know, like you're here with me, and we're gonna like talk about things, and we're gonna discuss stuff, and it's nice to have you around, rather than I expect you to be here and I expect you to do this, and I, you know, these terms start changing. So by practicing self-love, you have to like do these things. You have to treat yourself better. You have to eat right. You have to, you know, go get massages. Go treat yourself once in a while. Go get mani-pedis. So this goes for the fellas too. You guys should definitely get mani-pedis. And if you haven't had one yet, oh my god, you are missing out. Bruh. But basically, you have to start treating yourself in a more loving way. And the more you start loving yourself, the more you give yourself time, you start prioritizing the right things. And once you start prioritizing the right things, you have more energy to be there for others in a more healthy way. Like, you love people in a more healthy way. So anything you start thinking, you start manifesting it into your life. So when you have positive vibes, you kind of attract that positive vibe, right? It all begins with you. And once you love yourself, you will not allow yourself to go back into like a hole that you were once in. So if anyone is watching this, I know it's 2018, new year, new me, whole stuff, but hopefully this helps you understand what self-love is. It's not selfish. Just treating yourself more, prioritizing yourself more, being there for others without putting yourself on that back burner. So I hope this helped you guys understand a little bit. I know this is kind of like a just straight to the point kind of video, but I hope you guys have a blissful year, and hopefully it's only up from here. Start speaking things into existence and allow it to happen.